Hi there, welcome. Today we're going to talk about really the roots of your nervous system and what shapes your life experience. So, I talk a lot about patterns of tension. It's something that when you first come in to see me, you're going to get an assessment looking at what are patterns of tension? How does my body hold them and why? And really the idea is our nervous system doesn't know the difference between today, what's happening today, stressors of the past, or potential stressors of the future. The nervous system takes on whatever has not been fully processed as if it's happening now. And that is rooted in how our body holds these patterns of tension. So I want you to know today what they are and kind of what we can do with them. Maybe you've heard this before, maybe it's a deepening understanding of what they are. Either way, welcome, and let's get started. So throughout life, we have experiences, physical, mental, emotional, chemical. We can think of, the thoughts of, wow, I keep repeating the past. I can't stop thinking about how I messed up and I'm just repeating that situation in my head. Or emotionally, I had a really big emotion. I was, feeling just so full of anger or rage or sadness, and I just couldn't shake it. Um, Physically, maybe I have a pattern with my body and the way I move it and the way I feel tension, or an old injury that just seems to want to always be there and doesn't fully heal. All these things kind of signal and show when in life we have experiences that our nervous system doesn't have the full capacity to process in that moment, and they kind of just loop and repeat, and they sort of exist in the background, and they take up vital energy and life force from our nervous system. So we're less present for today, and we're having a hard time moving forward often from that experience. And I want you to understand that a little bit more in depth today of like, once again, where do these come from? And in order to do that, it's really helpful to see the big picture in life and our health and well-being. And I love to start with just drawing a spectrum for you to really see that our health and our life, it exists on a spectrum. We can have what we call optimal health on one side, best expression of you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, feeling really good and connected. And we might have disease on the other side, disconnected, less potent version of self. Maybe we've got symptoms or sickness going on, and really everywhere in between. And what controls sort of this health and well-being spectrum is our nervous system. It's how well it's processing and handling those events that we have in life is going to dictate whether we grow and evolve from them or whether we get bogged down and disconnected from them. And the nervous system is all about adaptability. Homeostasis is a really good word to describe the nervous system's job. All the time behind the scenes, the autonomic nervous system is helping your heartbeat. It's helping your lungs breathe. It's helping you digest your food. It's doing all these little micro things to help find homeostasis or balance. Balance and adaptability are what give you a sense of connectedness in life. It gives you a sense of wholeness. It does not mean life is perfect. On this side of the spectrum, life is not perfect. We're all going to experience the waves of life, but when we live with higher adaptability, it's easier to navigate them, and we tend to come out stronger on the other side. So I think that's what we're all seeking, even if we can't always put words to it. Our nervous system, at a very simple level, is our brain communicating to our cells that make up our body. The brain is telling the body, this is what's going on. We're going to adapt to it. The internal environment, the cells, are also telling the brain, this is what's going on. We need adaptation here. This is a really simplified version of a very dynamic conversation that's always happening within the body, and it's coordinated by that nervous system. Our nervous system, if all that information is flowing, we can think of being 100% in homeostasis, having a very high level of adaptability. If we don't have all that information flowing through, communication happening to heal, to repair, to regenerate, to come back to balance, we're going to have less than 100% connection and information. Our nervous system, it's taking in what we call experiences every day. So you and I, we take in experiences through our senses: sight, smell, taste, touch. Intuition is an extension of our nervous system. And essentially, when that information comes in, we can either process it or we don't have the capacity to. Our nervous system doesn't think in terms of categories like we might. We might think of, okay, I had a physical experience, this was mental, this was emotional, this was chemical, food, environment, technology. Our nervous system thinks in energy. So our nervous system says, oh, here's a wide variety of experiences I had today and even over my lifetime, some high, some low, some everywhere in between. I have a capacity at which to process that, and it exists right about here. I call this capacity your bandwidth. Your bandwidth is what capacity do you have to process life in this moment, in that moment in the past, in the moment in the future? What's that bandwidth like? And bandwidth, anything inside it, we're going to think of life experiences that are positive, pleasant, neutral. We process them real time. It could be as simple as a nice walk in nature, time with loved ones, reading a good book or watching a good movie. Our body takes in that information, and if it can handle it, it processes it in that moment. And what happens is it integrates it. And when we integrate something, we take a step in the direction of wholeness. We grow, we learn, we evolve from that experience. Also, we're all going to have experiences that are outside of that bandwidth. We can think of small experiences, traffic, weather, personal or professional responsibilities causing distress that day. Bigger experiences, loss, trauma, abuse, change, moving, things that are larger in life. Our body might say, oh, those are out here. But the bottom line is, whenever we have experiences that are outside of the bandwidth, our brilliant body is going to take that information and say, I can't fully process this in that moment, but I would like to process, grow, evolve, integrate that information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to it till I can get to it later. And that information comes here into the body, into the cells and tissues, and it builds on as patterns of tension. So based on your various life experiences, though that information is going to build on in different areas, and the body's really actually super intelligent in the way that it organizes this information. I'll talk about that more in another video, but into the different neural centers, your pattern areas where your body holds those patterns of the past tension are going to be different than mine based on our different life experiences. But in the end, the body is still brilliantly holding on to that information with the idea that with some sleep, with some rest, with some time, with some movement, my body will start to peel back and integrate that. And that's the idea that's designed. And you'll notice that naturally in your life, something that maybe felt really charged one day, maybe it took you a few hours, maybe it took you a few days, maybe it took you a few weeks to integrate slowly that information. And that's what's meant to happen. Over time, that happens. Maybe we come and have a conversation about it with someone else. There are different steps that help us bring that information to integrate through our body. What I often see, though, and this is why so many people find their way to me, is that information is sort of stuck or building on, and it's not coming off. The body seems to be either it's one event after the next, or the body's just sort of locked in that one experience or multiple experiences where it's like, hey, I'm just kind of existing in a less than optimal state. I don't have the energy I used to. I'm holding more tension than I want to be. Maybe my mental emotional lens is foggy, like I'm seeing through, dirty glass. Essentially, that's what that information does over time, is it interferes with that. It can impact, yes, our structure, how we feel physically. It can impact how our organ systems function, how our body heals and repairs, and the energy flow that we have. It can impact our perceptual lens. So we can be jaded by an experience to a degree, right? Our nervous system, based on that unintegrated stressor, feels really negatively towards something. And maybe it's not even our choosing, it's just our nervous system's deeply rooted there from an unprocessed experience in life. And when these patterns of tension build on, stay here for time, they interfere with the body's ability to communicate, to heal, to repair, to regenerate in these areas. And we sort of take this step this way on the spectrum, and we can say, each separate area in our life, maybe there's some of us living up here, but parts of us are moving this way. And when we cross this threshold and we build on over time a certain amount of tension, this is where we really start to notice it, as we get to this midway point. And our body's going to express in some way. I'm going to write symptoms because our body's going to give us some signal, some messenger that we're moving away from homeostasis. And it's sort of like our check engine light. that discomfort or that tension or that mental headspace, they're all indicating that our body's moving away from homeostasis and it doesn't want us to end up down here. So it's going to do whatever it can to get our attention, to get things back on track. But what happens often is when we get that buildup and our nervous system sort of switches gears. It's like, I could handle it here. Now I'm here. Now either I'm in fight or flight, or I'm just like locked down and freeze, and I'm having a hard time coming out of it. It's not your fault. I see it really common in today's world is one, there's just more information coming in than ever, and our bandwidth hasn't gotten the upgrade, the update to handle that. And it often, that just in regards with just life today can cause that nervous system to sort of get stuck hanging out down here. And that's when things aren't so good. We want it to be able to go here when it needs to, but come back. And this is sort of what it does as an adaptation, is it shrinks your bandwidth for life. When we have these patterns built on, that bandwidth for life is going to be less. And it might look like this. It might look like, really thin, just depending on what life experiences are. It could just be minorly less than what you've experienced before, and that's enough to get your attention. Or it could be like, I have no bandwidth. I don't have the energy or the vitality that I did. And that means things that maybe used to feel within that bandwidth, fill your cup, move you into the direction of wholeness, are actually building on and adding onion layers to the stress that you're experiencing or the disconnection that you're experiencing. So big picture, what I want you to see and understand is that it's actually less about what we are experiencing and the way that our body gets our attention and what it's communicating to us through symptoms. Those are a result of the nervous system being in a certain state. What it's really about is how can we support the nervous system to get to a higher level of functioning, to process and integrate what has built up in our system over time. And although maybe it has taken weeks, maybe it has taken months, maybe it has taken decades to get to where you are today, working with the bioenergetics of the nervous system, it can take a fraction of that time to start moving back in this direction. So the work that I offer is hands-on nervous system integration work, which is going to help the nervous system begin to peel back these layers, begin to repattern how it is responding to life so that we can move from this squished bandwidth to restoring the bandwidth, maybe to what we've experienced in the past, and maybe even revitalizing the bandwidth to what we have, what potential we do have, learning new strategies and new ways to process and adapt to life, giving us and maintaining the vitality as we move through life, as we age, as we experience the waves of life that are unpredictable. And that's, I think, what gives us the deeper quality and experience of connection, of trusting our bodies, trusting that we can handle this one great life that we're being offered. And so back to the fact that our nervous system is in control of that. When we offload the nervous system, we allow more energy and information to flow. That is what ultimately leads to this. And as I said, it can take time to get to where you are today. The beauty of this work that I offer, I can see, in a few sessions, we might feel some change, some shift in where our nervous system is focusing, some relief from those patterns starting to come off. In a few weeks to a few months, we can feel a totally different resonance with where the nervous system is hanging out every day. That's how quick the energetics can move back, knowing that over time, our body regenerates. Our body and cells and tissues take time to catch up to the energetics of the nervous system. So over time, as you move the energetics of the nervous system up, you will actually build a healthier body, a healthier connection over time when your cells regenerate. That is a longer process. It can take 7 years for the entire body to regenerate. Does it take 7 years to get out of this? No, because the bioenergetics of the nervous system move so much quicker than that. Just slowing down the patterns can allow our nervous system to jump up to higher levels of operating, where we have more energy and we have the capacity to keep unraveling these deeper layers. The deeper layers, these sort of roots of where our body goes when life gets hard, that may be our patterns, they may be our parents' patterns, they may be our grandparents' patterns, they may be life's patterns, the world, the community that we're surrounded with. Those can take more time to unravel. They can take upwards of 12 months to really uproot those deeper patterns. But we need spaciousness and bandwidth in order to have the capacity to uproot those. If we never have that, it's really hard to create deeper change. And so ultimately, what this work does is it gives us that change and that space to start to offload the nervous system and allow it to naturally move to higher levels of connection and communication. And as a result of that, we tend to experience less of what we experience down here. And we also build adaptability and resilience, where when life gives us the curveballs that we don't expect at work, physically, mentally, emotionally, the things we can't predict, we don't go, quite as far as we once did, or we go there and we come right back. It takes us a fraction of the time to come back into wholeness because we've built that resiliency and that connection over time. So that's a little bit more about these patterns, giving you some more depth and information of what your body is doing. How can we support it? If you have any questions, as always, let me know. Would love to entertain any questions that you have in future videos. Thank you and have a great day.